r/EntitledParents, episode 23. How I was almost trapped in an arranged marriage. Sorry this is so long, I promise none of it is boring. Lol edit, TL, doctor now included at the bottom by request. I grew up in a cult that believed, among other things, that women were the property of men, and children were the property of parents. So as an unmarried daughter, I was basically a cherished slave. I ran the house, meal planned, cooked and even homeschooled my youngest siblings, all while trying to homeschool myself through high school. Having grown up my whole life this way, I didn't even know the law would have been on my side if I had decided to defy my parents and move out when I turned 18. My parents constantly reminded me that until they gave me away to a husband, I was still their child and would obey them as the mouthpieces of God in my life. One day my parents told me they had received a phone call from the parents of another family we knew. Their oldest son had noticed me and wanted permission to court me, so per protocol, the parents would talk to each other, then each talk to their kids, and arrange the whole thing. My mom was beaming with pride, but I thought about it for a little bit and said I didn't want to do it. Mom's smile disappeared and she cried, "What? Why?" I gave her my reasons, very good ones I thought, but my parents weren't satisfied and told me I was not allowing God to work in my life and that I should just obey them and trust that God's will would be done. Being the good girl I was, I relented and said yes. Then followed a week or two of awkward family gatherings between our two houses because this version of courtship never allowed for the couple to be alone together. I tried to ease the tension by telling funny stories and encouraging other family members to talk, but only received stern rebukes from his mother who very clearly did not approve of me. Once she said we don't believe in practical jokes, so we are not impressed by that story. I mumbled that I wasn't trying to impress them and they could talk about anything they wanted, but no one did. Another time I was alone with his mom in the living room and she stated I only had two requirements on the girl he chose. 1. That she came from a good family, and 2. That she knew her Bible. And you have both of those, so I'm not going to say anything. I was confused at feeling so rejected when I didn't even want this in the first place. I mean really, who was courting who? Then I got a job offer as the church receptionist and my parents told me his parents had called them again and said they did not approve of women working outside the home and didn't want me to take the job. We believed the same way, except it was after the woman was a mother. Before she had kids, it was up to her father or husband whether or not she could work someplace else. This being a strange situation where my father allowed it, but the guy I was courting didn't, my parents told me to call him and get his permission too. I thought that phone call went well. He basically said he was not my husband yet and I should follow my own family's rules. He didn't mind and was okay with it. So I happily accepted the job. The next day my parents told me his parents had called and cancelled the whole relationship. It felt weird to get dumped without ever hearing from the guy dumping me, but it solved my problem and I moved on a little confused and definitely not in the mood for anyone else to court me. 2 years later, at 19, I still wasn't married, *SHOCKER*, and his family thought that meant God was saving me for him. The whole scenario repeated itself, but this time, my dad insisted that the guy court him first, so he could decide if he was even good enough for me before my heart got broken again. My dad told them, until he made a decision one way or the other, he did not want any of them to contact me and tell me what was going on. The guy decided no contact couldn't possibly mean letters, so he wrote me a 5-page apology for dumping me 2 years before and confessing that he had been falling in love with me and wanted to know if it was worth his time to even get to know my dad. My parents saw his name on the envelope and confiscated the letter before finally deciding it was too late, and they explained the whole thing. I was honestly insulted that a guy I had barely seen in 2 years would say he loved me, but doubt if it was worth his time to follow my family's requirements to court me. Especially after the last time he tried it, his family made me feel like trash. We agreed to meet at a local restaurant and agree on the terms of the relationship and decide if we even wanted to try it again. I sat on one side of the table with my parents on either side of me. He sat on the other side with his parents on either side of him. It felt like we had lawyers. His dad immediately started yelling at my dad for denying his son and saying it was so obvious that I wanted this and he was holding me back. My dad is a quiet man and he sat there like an angry stone while this man yelled at his face in the middle of the restaurant. It got so heated and embarrassing. The guy who liked me excused himself to the bathroom to throw up while he was gone. His dad also said if we didn't accept his son, there might never be another guy to come along and marry me. This made me laugh because I wasn't that desperate to just accept the first guy to ask, just because I was scared no one else would. I didn't care if I ever got married or not, even though I didn't dare tell anyone else that. The evening ended with an agreement that we would pick up where we left off. We thought that meant more courtship. They thought they already did courtship, so now it was an agreement to get engaged. The mistake quickly revealed itself a few days later when another guy friend I had, new guy, emailed my dad himself and asked permission to court me. My dad told me I should tell the guy I was courting and ask him if I could stay friends with a guy who liked me but who I had rejected. The guy came up with what I thought was a pretty good plan. My dad would tell him I was already courting someone else and then I could introduce him to some of my other friends and then maybe he would leave on his own. I thought that was brilliant and my dad spent the rest of the evening writing a tactful reply to the new guy. The guy I was courting was now aware that I had friends who were not female. Their family believed guys and girls could never be just friends, so I was essentially cheating on him with 20 other guys. He called me the next morning, 6 days after I had agreed to this courtship, and asked my permission, to ask my dad's permission, to ask me to marry him. Basically the lamest over the phone proposal ever. He said he was in love with me and we didn't have to get married right away, but that I would just be his and have a ring on my finger so no one could take me away from him. I told him I was flattered that he thought he loved me and I wished I could say I loved him back, but I didn't. It had only been 6 days and I hadn't even decided how I felt about him yet. His voice changed instantly and he angrily snapped, asking if I was still talking to that guy who also liked me. I was shocked. I had never seen this side of him before. That's why it should take longer than 6 days to find a spouse, kids. I tried telling him that my dad had only just replied to his email and I hadn't had a chance to introduce him to my friends yet. He said that wasn't the plan. We agreed you wouldn't talk to him anymore. I shut him down and said, "Whoa, I'm only doing what you told me to do. We are not engaged yet. I talk to lots of guys, and it doesn't mean anything romantic. We are just friends." His voice quieted down, but still sounded bitter and he said, "Well, if you can't agree to not talk to any other boys and only talk to me, maybe we shouldn't call this courting right now. Maybe we shouldn't." I replied. We agreed that I would take a week to think about it and call him when I had made my decision. Marry him and forsake all the male friends I had known since I was 5, or cut off the relationship for the second time. I told my parents what happened and they tried to convince me to just do what he wanted, but I finally yelled at them for the first time in my life that I was not going to marry anyone I did not love. My dad was angry, but my mom sent me to my room and said we could talk about it later. I had a week, after all. I was very sad. The only reason I was considering it was because my parents insisted it was God's will and I really wanted to do what God said. But at the same time, this family seemed even more strict than my own, and I would also miss all my old friends. There was so much to think about. About an hour later, I got 2 calls from this guy's mother, which I'll let go to voicemail. I didn't want to talk to her right then. Next thing I know, my little brother came up holding the house phone, saying it was the guy's mom, and she demanded to talk to me. She scolded me for a long time, saying I had cheated on her son, and that he had called off work this morning because he was worried sick over calling me and asking me to marry him. She all but called me a harlot because of all the guys I was talking to, while I tried to tell her I was not in a relationship with any of them. Guy's mom, you cheated on him. You are in a relationship with every person you meet. Me, but not every relationship is a romantic one. Guy's mom, between guys and girls, yes. For example, my husband is my best friend and I would never talk to other men, and neither would your mom. Me, oh yes she would. She talks to other men all the time and she's friends with lots of people. Guy's mom, well, I'm shocked. I honestly thought better of her than that. She then demanded to know why I needed 7 days to pray about whether or not to marry her son. Guy's mom, God doesn't take that long to answer prayer. It sounds like you already know how you feel, and you're just too scared to say it. It should take a day or two at the most. Me, look, your son agreed to let me have a week. If he can't do that, then the answer is no. Guy's mom, well let's not be too hasty. I thought, who's being hasty? I wanted a week. She then told me she would go talk to her son and her husband and see what they wanted to do. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. I had never been accused of anything like that before, and I curled up in a ball and cried. My mom heard me and came to see what was wrong. When I told her everything, that horrible woman said to me, and I stated firmly, that I never wanted to see anyone from that family again. She called my dad up, and he was angry for me being accused of being a harlot with all these boys, but told me I was not allowed to make my decision until a week was up, because that was what I had agreed to. I just silently told myself they could all think what they wanted, but I knew my answer was no, and it would still be no a week from now. He called the family back and told them none of them were to contact me in any way, shape, or form for the whole week, and when I had made my decision, he would call them and let them know what it was. They were angry, but they never contacted me again. Almost 2 years later, I married the new guy who had emailed my dad. Remember him? He was not a member of our cult and taught me how to think for myself. Our courtship looked a lot more like dating than anything else and made a lot of people upset, but we didn't care. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary and we have 3 sons. I feel like I was rescued. TL, doctor, I grew up in a cult. My parents wanted me to marry some guy I barely knew. I put up with it for way too long until it just got too ridiculous super fast. Edit, guys. Please do not hunt down and harass the guy in this story. **THIS was many years ago and just because I'm finally able to open up about it does not mean I'm ready for the backlash that would come if he, his family or his friends, many of whom are my friends, felt attacked. Also, his family did not claim to be part of the same cult we were in, they just believed most of the same stuff we did. I know that's going to be something they will complain about if they get a hold of me. Please just take it as a crazy story and leave it where it is. I appreciate the support, but going after this guy could only hurt me more. Thank you for understanding. M knows better than the doctor. Less than a week later, M, otherwise known as my stepmother, gives me another story to tell. Cast, me, OUI, Sestmoy. M, entitled, Step, Mother GD, Grandad LS, Little Sister. Onto the show. I recently had a stomach problem where I couldn't go to the toilet properly. I won't go into details, and I went to go see a doctor as it had been going on for about 2 days. M could take me because she had to go shopping and my dad was at his work. So GD has to come and pick me up and take me to the doctor's. We talked to the doctor, blah blah blah, and he told me to take something called Benefida, which is just wheat. I bought some on the way home with GD. When we got back home, M had to do something important, so M told me to go home with GD. M hasn't specified when to come back or anything, so it was a surprise when I got a phone call from her asking where I was and why I wasn't home. When I got driven back, I took the Benefida with me inside. M, what's that? Me, UMM, it's Benefibrem, what's that? Me, it's just wheat to help me digest food properly. The questions went on, so I'll skip ahead a little. M, give me the container. I hand it over, and she reads the contents. M, my god, they think this is good for you. All it is wheat. M, you should be having this instead. It is better and healthier for you. The container she hands to me is one of those vegan run companies, and it contains stuff that I don't need. Me, I will have the Benefiber and that's it. M, BRTH at S bad F or U and DYOUS how LD trust ME. Me, sure, I'll trust 5 minutes of internet experience over someone with 5 years of medical experience. M, yes, you should trust me over the doctor. I sighed and walked away. I thought that was it, but no. Later that day, M tells my dad and LS that the Benefiber is bad for me. Dad tells her that it's not, and walks off to go do something for work. LS believes M, and when I next put it over my soup, LS says it's bad for me, and I'll keep getting sick. I tell her that it's what the doctor gave me, but she says M is always right. Ah well, it's fine now. Or is it? The next morning, I wake up and go to have breakfast. I'm not going to school, and M doesn't have a job, so she is at home. I make my breakfast and look for the Benefiber. I can't see it anywhere, so I ask M where it is. She keeps looking at her phone and says she doesn't know. I feel like something is up, so I look in the bin, and hey, presto. It's sitting right there at the top. I don't tell M, but I get it out and wash it, then use some. M comes over, looks at what I'm doing, and has a disgusted look. She just stares at me then walks away. TL, Doctor, the title but with a few more bad things from M will update if anything else happens. M and Ek hate my whole family and want our money. I think I finally have enough karma to post this here. Disclaimer, everything in this story I've heard from my mother about a conversation my uncle had with his daughter, so some details might not be 100% accurate. I may have to fill in blanks in the conversations, so it makes sense. Also I'm on mobile and English is my favorite language, albeit not my first. So please do forgive, and let me know about any spelling and or formatting mistakes. So some backstory, when my uncle was younger he hopped from relationship to relationship until he met a certain woman, M, and got her pregnant with a girl, Ek. Sometime after they broke up, IDK if they were ever married or engaged, and M kept the girl. My uncle then went on to meet the woman who to this day is still his wife, and had 2 girls with her. M is the kind of person that wants nothing to do with an ex, but gets absolutely furious when the ex finds someone else. So you can imagine how she felt when my uncle actually got married to another woman. So she's always taught her daughter to treat my uncle kindly when she needs something from him. She also spoiled herself and her daughter, while my uncle paid almost every one of her daughter's needs, school, food, bills, etc. And my uncle always tried to be there for his daughter and be a caring dad, so he put up with it. Because of this my cousin grew up to be an Ek. TL, Doctor at the bottom. Cast, op, me, only mentioned, not actually there, M, entitled bitch, 40-50F, Ek, smaller entitled bitch, 24F, U, uncle, 50 meters, A, aunt, use wife, 40-ish, IDKF, BC. Bratty cousin, also my goddaughter, 11F, CC, cool cousin, 15F, M, my mom, she's been 37 for the last 14 years F. D, driver, though he only has 2 lines in the whole story, the story, you was at a mall with A, B, C, M, and Ek, she tagged along, so she could get you to buy her something expensive. They are going through shops and whatnot, when Ek sees a purse that's like $1,000, and asks you to buy for it for her. You, sorry baby, but it's too expensive. Ek, but you paid like $12,000 for CC's quinceanera birthday party. Why can't I have this then? You, because that party is something she'll only get once in her life, while you have the rest of your life to get that purse. Besides, you also had a quinceanera party. But mine wasn't as expensive. Your mom decided what to get in your party. I just paid for most of it. Ugh, whatever. She said all that while pouting the whole time. So they keep going through shops and everyone gets to buy something. Ended up getting a blouse or something. While BC got some shoes for school and a backpack slash purse slash bag thing that she liked, though she didn't need it at all. Both things were under $100. Like 30 minutes later, BC sees a pair of $20 shoes she really likes and starts asking you to buy them for her. You already got that bag, that's enough. BC, but I want it. Then let's return the bag. BC, but I want both. BC is kind of entitled sometimes, but that's just because she's still just a kid and she'll probably grow out of it. I hope. You only get one thing, now choose. Keep in mind that my uncle is not short in money at all. He's just trying to get his daughter to understand that she can't just throw money away like a madman. BC, fine. I'll keep the bag. While this conversation was going on, Ek was on the phone with M and telling her everything that was going on. A few days later, my uncle was talking on the phone with M about Ek's university expenses for the semester. When suddenly M brings up what happened with BC. Ek told me what happened. You should really teach your hellspawn how to behave. What do you mean? I mean how she just throws a tantrum when she doesn't get what she wants. But with parents like those, no wonder she's so entitled. Now listen here, you harpy. I know I'm not the best person out there, so you can say whatever the fuck you want about me, but don't you ever talk that way about my family again, you hear me? He said that a bit more politely, but that's the message that got across. Oh, so you know you're a bad person? Yet you don't even try to be good. You didn't even buy Ek that purse she wanted. She was so sad. Okay, two things. One, Ek also threw a tantrum, and she's 24, so you have no right to criticize my parenting methods. Two, I pay for her whole tuition, healthcare, and living expenses. If she was so sad about it, then you buy it for her. *HANGSUP*. That was like a week ago. Today, my mom was riding to another city with our driver to do some business and visit my grandma when my uncle called her. She answered and put him on speaker. The driver is our family's private driver, so it doesn't matter if he listens to the whole conversation. He starts venting about a heated argument he had with Ek. The argument goes something like this. Ek, hey dad, mom told me you screamed at her the other day. Why did you do that? I'm sorry about that. I lost my cool. I just got fed up with her talking bad about my family. Ek, what did she say? She was calling BC entitled because of the thing with the shoes, even though I told her you did the same thing. Ek, yeah, but I deserve that purse. Whatever do you mean? Ek, I mean I'm your smart daughter that is proudly studying medicine. While BC is so stupid she had to change schools. BC was born in the US and lived there for like 4 years, and when they moved back to my country she had problems adjusting to the language and needed help that a competitive school didn't offer. She couldn't stay in a school that even Op managed to graduate from. By the way, Ek applied to the school BC was originally in and failed to get in. And that was back in the day when the school wasn't as competitive. Ek, she's also so bratty. I don't know how you managed to raise her like that, while my mom raised me like a proper person. She also went on to talk shit about CC, A, and M, while Yu's anger was just building up inside. By the time she finished ranting, Yu was ready to make her ears bleed with shouting. But A, who was listening to the argument, told Yu to not snap back at Ek as she could be recording the call and could use it against him. Ek, please don't say that about your sisters and your aunt. I really regret not being a more present father for you to educate you, right, and have a good relationship with you. So if you want to hate me for that, go ahead, you have every right to. But they haven't done anything wrong, so please don't forget they are also your family and treat them as such. I don't know how the conversation ended as that's all my mom told me about it. After you finished retelling the argument to I've told you before that she doesn't like us. Now do you believe me? Yeah, I guess I was holding on to the hope that I could be a somewhat decent father for her. But I see her mother made her as rotten inside as she is. At least you only have to keep paying for one more year. In my country, parents have to financially support their children until they're 26, given that the kid is still studying, otherwise it's 18. Actually it's 2 years. Good damn it. Sigh anyway, I'll call you later. Bye. Bye *HANGSUP**D, such selfish people. Indeed. That's about it. There's also something about Ek possibly suing my mom in revenge, but I don't know what that's really about, so I didn't include it. TL, Dr. M and Ek call her half-sister entitled when she was doing the same thing, then says she deserves more than her. M thinks her baby's cries are something people want to hear at a movie theater. So, I don't even know where to begin. I finally have my one day off yesterday to finally see it part 2. Yeah, I know. What took you so long? Work and school is a bitch. Any student doing both know the struggle. So, I get home, exhausted, and my BF surprises me with tickets to see the movie. I'm ecstatic. Some time with him, and a chance to finally see this long-awaited movie. Amazing. So, we head out, get there, get our expensive ass movie snacks and sit our asses down. Typical movie experience. That is until I hear something I shouldn't hear in an R-rated movie. The sound of a baby cooing. My first thought was, what the fuck? There's no way. There's no way someone's so incompetent to bring a baby to a movie. That was bound to be loud as shit. I didn't want to believe it. But sure enough, my BF jabs his finger to M's location. In her lap was a toddler. At that moment I knew my night was fucked. He had already spent money to get the tickets. We got our treats with prices fit for Satan himself. We couldn't just leave. It was late by this point. I just kept my mouth shut. I don't like kids, especially crying kids. But at that moment, the kid wasn't crying, so everything was good. Be that as it may, I just couldn't help but think, what parent thought it was a good idea to bring their kid to a movie like this? Out of all fucking movies. Just say fuck off to the scary ass clown, am I right? So, the movie starts, everything is chill, and I'm enjoying the scene. Me and my boo, me whispering that I want him to dress up like Pennywise. We play a little game of girls on top. This has him laughing. I'm on clown 9. I'm not funny, but then, as I fucking predicted, soon as a loud scene builds up, toddler starts fucking crying. And it just goes on and on. From where I'm sitting, the M was a few rows down. Not once did she make a move to leave the theater. It was as if the kid wasn't there to begin with. I just stared at the back of her head in amazement. The last thing I wanted was to draw attention and tell this bitch to leave, so I just prayed that someone else would do it. It didn't take long, but I guess someone complained. An attendant came in and walked to her, and what I presumed was telling her about her baby. I knew right off that bat this bitch was crazy, because she brought this kid to the movie because she stood up and screamed at the dude I didn't have a fucking babysitter. Bitch, who gives a fuck? Certainly not I, who spent $10 plus for just a drink and some popcorn. Everyone clapped when she took the child out, and fuck, it was like an orgasm in my ears when all I was hearing was the characters on screen scream and not a little baby.